One of the things that is imperative, not imperative, integrated in this medicine is it's far more than technology. It's about character. That's what I love about this medicine also. The ancient wisdom was not so much about how you do technology. It was about who you are as a practitioner, your character, whether you're humble, whether you're curious, whether you're willing to respect your teachers and respect the natural order. Respect is a big quality.
I'm Michael Max, and this is Geological, the podcast that curates East Asian medicine and methods through the power of conversation. You can't manufacture grace, can't technique your way into it, but you can recognize it when it's present and wonder at its source. Grace is fallen into, no effort involved, it's elusive when chased, which leads me to consider that surprise just might be an essential ingredient. That it spontaneously arises leads me to thinking that the biggest obstacle to it might be the last encounter with it, because the circumstances that previously landed you in grace don't work the same way around the next time. But it's easy to imagine if you followed the same dance steps that you'd get there. Turns out, it doesn't work that way. The state of grace is outside our sense of being time-bound creatures. The physics of action and reaction dissolve in the timeless eternal. There is just everything that is, without opinion or complaint. The just this of the timeless doesn't take away your story, but it does, for a beat or two, suspend its hold on any sense of self that seems to have gone transparent. I suspect experience of the numinous, while it cannot be commanded, it can be cultivated. It's always a bit disruptive, never quite arrives from the same angle. I'm not sure if it's something we slip into or if it is grace that slips into us. Perhaps it is that when you least expect it, there it is. The moments in life that land in a way that make you think, yes, this, they're rare, and sometimes only arise after searching, patience, or just letting things be. Judy Worsley was searching for something with acupuncture that a book had inspired in her. She didn't find it, and then she was told to study at Leamington Spa. She followed that advice, almost didn't stay, but then Judy Worsley walked into the room. In this History Series conversation, we chart the circuitous route that took her from Miami, Florida, to the UK to study 5-element acupuncture. We'll get into it in a moment. Stay with us. Geological Conversations are brought to you through the generous support of our sponsors and members. You have clinic challenges, our sponsors have solutions. What's better than cupping? Cupping squared. John Stan has more on that in just a moment. Would you like to be able to better help your patients by understanding their blood work? Jessica Parker can take you on that journey. Later in the show, you'll hear how my office runs smoothly with Jane, and Blue Poppy reminds us there's no such thing as a small detail. Your focus and intention are important. Do be sure to visit the sponsors page on the Geological website to take advantage of all the special offers our terrific sponsors have for listeners of the podcast.
Question: why do cupping marks not appear as strongly after repeated cupping sessions over a few weeks? If you've been doing regular cupping on patients, you've probably noticed this phenomenon. The fact that it happens is one of the main reasons to offer cupping to stressed areas of the body regularly, as part of a prevention program. Hi, John Stan here, inventor of the Fascia Buddy Square Cupping System. I invite you to visit fasciabuddy.com/geological and watch my short video where I discuss cupping marks with one of my colleagues, and we explore an important question: are they a bruise or a capillary bed flush? Check it out. And while you're there, sign up on the Fascia Buddy website to stay informed of the latest developments in cupping. And as a thank you, you'll receive a free, downloadable 5-minute low back, hip, and IT band protocol that you can share with your patients. Until next time, happy square cupping.
What I find really fascinating about Dr. Jessica Parker's work is that she's solving a real problem that we all see in our practices. Patients coming in with labs that say everything is normal, but they're clearly not feeling well. They're exhausted, they're struggling, and they feel unheard. Dr. Parker teaches acupuncturists exactly how to read those labs differently, not as a Western doctor would, but through the lens of Eastern medicine and functional analysis. She shows you which tests to order, how to interpret them, and most importantly, how to finally give your patients the answers they've been searching for. If you've ever wanted to add this powerful diagnostic tool to your practice, her 10-week functional medicine cohort for acupuncturists is exactly what you need. You can learn more at drjessicaparker.com and learn how to see what others are missing. Judy Worsley, welcome to Geological.
Thank you. It's very nice to be here with you.
You're here for a little history podcast. We're going to take a little trip back in time. We're going to go back to, you and I have been around for a while. I think you're a little older than me, but.
Well, I was just going to say that's very complimentary of you to put you and I into the same time zone. I think we're separated by at least a couple decades.
I don't think so. But anyway.
I'm 79 this year.
You're 79. Okay, so you're 10 years older than me. 1 decade.
Okay.
1 decade. You got a full decade head start. Yeah. So look, back when you were a kid, and for that matter, when I was a kid, I don't think we grew up knowing much about acupuncture. I'm always curious about folks that have been at it for a while. Like, what was going on in your life? In fact, for that matter, what was going on in the world around you? What did the world look like when acupuncture first came into your awareness?
That's a big question. I'll try to keep it short. Well,
you don't have to keep it short. We have as much time as we want here.
Well, thank you. Well, first of all, I had a wonderful childhood. And what was wonderful about my childhood was that we were able to be outside a lot, and we were very active. We being my brother and I with the rest of the family, and a lot of freedom and a lot of, just close relationship with nature and the natural world. South Florida in those days was pioneered in the 50s. It was not like it is today. So I was growing up there in the 50s, and it was, very different than it is now. So
what was South Florida like in the 50s?
Well, you just as an example, first of all, we walked to school freely, safely. My brother and I would walk at least a mile to school and at least a mile back. And we had physical education. So we had at least 2 hours just to start with of physical activity a day. Then we were on a swimming team, so we had 2 hours of practice every night. Every single evening at 5 o'clock, we went and swam, whether it was, even in Florida, it can get cold. So we were active and involved with the world around us. We had pets. My dad was a surgeon. My mom was a lawyer.
In the 50s, your mom was a lawyer.
I'm glad you noticed that. It was amazing. She was one of 2 women in a class of 270, and she graduated second, and the other woman graduated first in the class. So they made the mark.
Okay, so that's a little bit unusual to have a mom who's a lawyer in the 50s.
She was also an icon. She was extremely beautiful and very fashionable, and she was known for having wonderful taste and the way she dressed, and our house, and she had me, and I was basically a tomboy. So,
oh my goodness.
I don't want to go into a therapy zone, but we had to untangle a little bit there because she wanted me to wear a dress and I wanted to climb trees, and basically wearing a dress and climbing trees wasn't exactly convenient. So, but we worked it out.
Yeah.
So I had a great childhood, and then a very long story short, I went to university, Washington University, and couldn't wait to get on the road in Europe. I literally was waiting to get out of school. I wanted to see the world. So I went traveling the world for about a year and a half on my own, hitchhiking around, and in those days, you got telegrams. You didn't get, what do you call it?
Text messages.
No. You got telegrams or those air letters, those blue air letters that would wait at
The airmail, the really super thin envelope with the blue and red stitching around it.
That was it. Yes. So I'd have to let my parents know where my next destination was, and they'd send me messages or these air letters to the American Express office. So that's where all the travelers went. So the American Express office, I'd pick up messages. So I got this telegram. I was in Paris, and I got a telegram saying that my mom was in the hospital dying. So I went back the next day, and I was heading for India, but I cut everything short, obviously. Went home, and she asked me if I'd stay with my dad, and I said yes. And my dad gave me a very difficult choice. He said, "Do you want to get a job, go to work, or do you want to go to school?" And even though I didn't love school, I said, "I'll go to school." So I entered law school reluctantly, and I didn't like it. I didn't like law school.
You went to law school.
I went to law school.
Following in your mom's footsteps.
And one of the last things my mom said to me is, "You won't like it." So
You won't.
in my usual style, I questioned her. Although I didn't, you know what, Michael, I didn't know what I wanted to do. I really didn't know what I wanted to do.
I get it. I went to school. I did a whole master's degree because I didn't know what I wanted to do. And then I never used it because, I should have gone traveling.
I entered Washington University as a pre-med student and changed after 2 weeks to architecture school. Then they started handing out all these fancy things that were going to have numbers and stuff. And I thought, I'm not doing this. So then I went into liberal arts and managed to get out of undergraduate school. I really didn't know what I wanted to do.
Yeah, fair enough.
I wanted to be a veterinarian. I loved animals, but anyway, what I loved was being on the road. It was one of the golden times in my life. I just had a wonderful time. It was the best education. So anyway, came back to Florida, went to law school, hated it, met a man named Jack Painter, who was trained with Ida Rolfe, who was a Rolfer, the Rolfing work.
Now, what year is this?
1970.
1970.
So his name was Jack Painter.
You meet a student of Ida Rolfe in law school.
Jack Painter, yes. He was a philosophy professor. We're getting really into private area here, but I have no filter, by the way. I don't care. So my life is an open book. So Jack and I sort of got together for a little while. He was a philosophy professor at University of Miami, and I was living with my dad, and I was biking to school every day on this Schwinn bike. And what I noticed, and Jack Painter did this thing called yoga, which I'd never heard of. And on one of his bookshelves was a book on acupuncture. And I started reading it, and the word energy grabbed me. Something about hearing something that made sense on a profoundly deep level. I was entranced by that. So then I hitchhiked from Miami to California trying to find an acupuncture teacher and spent a whole summer traveling up and down because I thought California was the place to go.
Well, in the 70s it was. I think there was a song about it even.
Okay. Well, I went there and I went to many, many places, Japanese, acupuncture, Korean, Chinese, but San Francisco, LA. I went up and down the coast trying to find, and I wasn't really grabbed by anything. And then hitchhiking back, I stopped in St. Louis and was telling my...
St. Louis?
Well, that's where I went to school, Washington University.
Oh, just down the street.
Yeah. So that's where I graduated from. So I'm hitchhiking back, was with some friends complaining that I had spent the whole summer looking for an acupuncture teacher. And they were like, what's that? And I was trying to explain. And they said, oh, we've heard of this plastic surgeon named Marcy Goldstein who is going to England to study with this man named Worsley. So I called Marcy. He said, well, I met Jack Worsley at Esalen last year, and he was fantastic. And I'm going to take the class, the training in England in September. Call me. So I'm now in my third year of law school. So in September, I'm entering my third year. And I called Marcy, and all he said was, go. So I thought, okay, I'm going to go. But the class started.
Just like that. Wait a minute. Just like that. Okay, I'm going to go.
Yeah.
You didn't ruminate on it. You didn't think about it. You didn't sleep on it. Okay, go. Fine.
But even worse was that I was sort of a bad student in the sense that I didn't like going to class. But I got good grades because I figured out the game. You just had to pass the exams and turn the papers in. But the class in England started in April, and my graduation from my 6th semester, the third year, when I would have gotten my degree, was June. So I was going to drop out. But this friend of mine said, you can't do that. You can't do 5 out of 6 semesters. You have to. So I went to see my law school teachers and I said, let me out early. I need to go to England to study acupuncture. And they were like, really? And I said, yes, really. And they let me take the exams early. And I was on the plane to England in April, arrived the first morning. We didn't have JR. We had some people reading papers, and I was looking at my watch thinking, I'm going to go home tonight. This isn't for me. And then he came in later in the late morning and started speaking, and that was it. I was hooked.
So you have kind of followed your intuition, your gut.
My truth.
You may not know where you're headed, but when something comes up, you're like, that's it.
When it's that compelling, I mean, yes, it's like you love your cats. You don't have to think about it. You just know you do. I knew that I loved this truth, that there's something more to us than what we think. And I was just fascinated. And JR was he had such an authentic presence and such a compelling manner. He was he talked about it being, this was a way of life and our following the natural order and being in relationship with a much bigger order than human order. It was it was fascinating, and it was truthful, and it was compelling, and it was beautiful. And that was 1970, and here I am 53 years later, even more in love with what I've learned than ever before.
So you finally found out what you wanted to do.
Yes, I found out what I wanted to do when I grow. I can't say I've ever grown up, but I found out what I wanted to do. Yes, that's for sure. Yes, definitely. Definitely.
Yeah. It's a funny term, grow up, isn't it?
Yes. That's why I laugh when I say it.
I said that on the podcast the other day myself. I said something about, well, when I was growing up, and I was thinking, that's a weird thing to say. But, I think it implies that there is some kind of directionality in our life. And, ideally, maybe, or inspirationally, some kind of ascent that, we like get from one place to another.
Yeah.
There's a process, there's an unfolding. You were talking about nature, Judy, and, we see this in nature, right? Sprouts come out of the earth. They go through some kind of development. All of a sudden you look at it and it's like, oh my God, look at that. Because it's bursting out in some kind of flower or, some sort of splendor.
Well, you're talking to an English garden lover. I've got 5 acres here. And yes, so I get to go through the seasons and see the winter, which we just came through, and everything was a blank canvas. And suddenly we are surrounded by the most incredible explosion of color and richness and abundance. It is amazing. It's wonderful to behold. So going back to my beginnings, there was no such thing as accreditation. There was no such thing as regulation. When I went into practice, I've never, ever had to be regulated in England, ever. There's no, I, there's nothing here. No one's ever asked me no one's ever asked me in 53 years what my credentials are. I've never had a website. I had a 2-year waiting list when I first started in practice in Oxford. Me and this other woman, Julia, there was no other acupuncturist. We were the only ones. And we had a 2-year, we used to say, could you try homeopathy? Could you try massage? Because we couldn't cope. We could not cope. But now there's like probably 200 acupuncturists in Oxford.
Thank goodness.
Exactly. Absolutely.
Because it's more practitioners for more people want to use it. I've talked to other folks here on the history series, and they often will tell a similar story. Regulation was in the process of happening. Many of them, at least here in the States, initially were practicing illegally or in some kind of gray zone. And many of them in the beginning were phenomenally busy because there wasn't anyone around doing acupuncture. There was something happening in the 70s, probably the James Rustin thing, New York Times. But I think just something in the culture, maybe just we're talking about nature and there's moments where things flourish. Something seemed to be happening in the 70s.
I think we also had a
late 60s, early 70s, and people were just drawn to it. And the early practitioners had people flocking to them for some weird reason.
There was also an authenticity. There wasn't all this layers of websites and promotional people. I feel so sorry for today's generation that they have to work so hard to promote themselves and and package themselves. I do feel sorry for them because it puts a layer on things that I don't know. It just seems like a lot of work, and I just had it so much more straightforward, I suppose. Our patients loved coming to the clinic. We had sheets, literally bed sheets, tied up from the rafters, separated because we had no money. I was 24. We had no money. I listened to Danielle's podcast earlier about the amount of debt these poor people go through, the debt and the burnout and the challenges. And our training was very safe and effective and not packaged with anything more than what you needed to have in order to be a good practitioner, which was far, 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 far less than what's going on today.
Well, these days, I think
I couldn't do today's programs. I couldn't do them. I couldn't do them.
Well, fair enough, because look, things have changed. The landscape changed, in part because people like JR, people like you, other people that were there in it early, Marcy Goldman for that matter, right? It's like opened up a pathway. And so people get drawn to it, both as patients and people that want to practice. And then there's this idea of, integrating into the conventional medicine world. Many people would like to integrate into the conventional medicine world and, be a doctor and work in a medical setting or a hospital or, that kind of thing. Acupuncture is useful in many ways. And so, yeah, there's a portion of the profession that really wants to be part of, I'm going to call it mainstream culture. But I suspect there's also a portion of the profession that's like mainstream culture. Thank you. I am so not interested. If you're looking for a clinic that looks medical, please don't come here, because that's not how I work and it's not what my clinic looks like. But, one of the wonderful things is, Judy, more and more people have the capacity to learn the medicine. But yes, I think you're right. And I'm not trying to turn this conversation into look at the future of Chinese medicine or acupuncture. But yeah, we're at a real inflection point here in the States.
So I'm hearing.
And maybe even a chance to reimagine the medicine and how we teach it.
Well, don't include me.
That's okay.
I know.
Although let me ask you, look, you've been doing acupuncture for, I guess, north of 50 years now Would that be fair to say?
Yep, 50, 53 and a half.
All right, that's north of 50 years.
Yes, thank you.
So, given your experience with being an acupuncturist, everything from that moment where you looked at the book and went, acupuncture, what's that? Ooh, energy, huh? I'm going to California, and then knocking around to see what you could find. Everything that you learned from then till now, if you could give or teach or pass on 3 things to a new acupuncturist, what would you pass along to them?
The source of wisdom is nature, the natural order. That's the best book you can read. Number 2, here to help each other. We all share the same Father, the same Mother, Heavens, our Father, Mother Earth. So we're here to help each other. And the third thing would be diversity, to respect each other. That nature teaches us that there's diversity and we all get to express ourselves differently and to work differently. And that we don't have to be the same. We can be different. Tulips don't get mad at roses because they don't look or smell the same. Nature teaches us so beautifully. It would be so boring if everything was the same. So diversity and respect.
That sounds like a pretty good curriculum for any course of study.
Was for me, has been for me. Yeah, I'm very lucky. If I died today, I wouldn't feel cheated. So I would consider that I'm very fortunate. My life has been so full and blessed, including very challenging times. Yes, challenges give it some of the spice.
They do, don't they?
Should we call it spice? Well, I'm in a good mood today, so I'm calling it spice. When it's erupting, I don't think I have such a favorable attitude. It's like, oh my God, here we go again.
There is that here we go again. I don't think there's a person I know who doesn't experience, oh, here we go again. There's this spiral that we seem to travel. It often feels like a circle, like, oh God, this again, really? But usually I think if we're paying attention, it's like, oh, here it comes again. How do I work with it now? What do I do about this now? This isn't new. In fact, it might even be old. So how do I dance with it? What do I do with it?
That's good. I've got certain people in my life that I find there's repetitive patterns. You're in a relationship with different, whether it's work or personal, and I go, oh, I wished I hadn't done that. And then I say to myself, you'll get another chance. You'll have another opportunity. Don't worry about it. Because you can get lost in regret. Oh, you can't pull back what you said or did. I go, oh, don't worry about it. You'll get another chance to come along.
If you've listened to this podcast for any length of time, you'll know that I'm a fan of having a small business. Running an acupuncture practice indeed requires attention to detail when it comes to managing your office. And that's why I use Jane to run my clinic. It's not just the excellent EMR or online scheduling system, both of which are a backbone to my practice. Jane also allows me to automate patient communications. They love getting text and email reminders from me, which helps to reduce no-shows. And because I choose the language for these communications, patients think I sent the message myself. They like that personal touch. I'm impressed with how flexible and scalable Jane is. From a small clinic to multiple locations and services, Jane can help you to organize the business side of the house. See how Jane can help you too by visiting jane.app/demo. Sign up for Jane and use the code CHEOLOGICAL to get a 1-month grace period on your new Jane account. You'll get another chance. That's fantastic. Oh my goodness. I think about, I see this in clinic, right? Patients come in, there's something going on, blah, 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 whatever, right? And they'll say something, and oh, this thing isn't working out, or this again, or whatever. Judy, this is wonderful. I'm looking forward to being able to sit with a patient in the near future as they're going on about what am I going to do, and oh, it's so awful, and we know how the story is going. I'll just be able to go, don't worry, you'll get another chance.
Yes, I find that very comforting.
Well, it's either comforting or God. It's not the opposite. I mean, there's discomfort. It's like a threat. Like, oh my God, I haven't worked this out, and so the universe is going to throw it in my face again. It's like, oh, that's comforting.
I see what you're saying. Well, the other thing that I've learned, I read this really, I don't read that much, to be honest. I sort of burnt out reading when I was a young adult. And I just find I'm too busy now and I'm too excited by what's around me. But I did read one book in the last year called The Untethered Soul by a gentleman named Mickey Singer, who I happened to have gone to high school with and didn't know until I read the book.
No, seriously?
And I Googled him. Yes, he was 1 year ahead of me at Coral Gables High School. Isn't that weird?
No, actually, no.
So, but one of the things, one of my takeaways from his book was this would be lesson 4. When you said I could only have 3 lessons. If I could say 3, the 4th would be what I took away.
No, I didn't say you couldn't have more. I just asked for 3.
Thank you. Well, number 4 would be what I learned from this book was to treat every single solitary moment in your life as an opportunity to go to the highest level possible. So even the challenging moments, I do now say to myself, what is the highest level that what can we do with this moment, even if it's a challenging moment? How can you reach for the highest possible way to deal with this or to be with this? So it becomes an opportunity. Am I sounding like an old lady? I think I am.
Well, you are, so there's that.
Yes, but I wouldn't have thought this way 20 years ago or 30 years ago, for sure. But
Well, Judy, you're making a good argument for living long enough to become an old lady.
well, can you remind me of that on some of my off days? No, I'm kidding. No, I'm pretty grateful for when I feel like right now I go, oh, I'm hobbling around and I'm this and I'm that, and then I go, Judy, in a year, if you're still here, you'll be wishing that you could do what you're doing now. So don't spend right now complaining about what you can't do that you did a year ago, because in a year's so get over it and enjoy what you've got now. So yeah, being old has its blessings and its curses. Not curses, challenges.
For sure.
Yeah. So yes, and JR was a great one for because he was considerably older than I, and he used to say to me, "Wait till you're 74." Or I'd say, "Can't you hear me?" And he'd say, "Darling, wait till you're 74 and you'll understand." Something like that. But he was a wonderful model of how to grow old gracefully. He never stopped being the most amazing student.
I was going to say, what was it? How was it that he grew older that set an example for how to do it gracefully?
He was the best student I've ever met. He never stopped being intrigued by life, fascinated, curious. And he was seeing patients up till 2 days. He was seeing patients when he was in the hospital, dying. He never, ever, ever, ever backed down from doing what he could to help another person. He was a wonderful example. He lived it. So he was in the hospital, all hooked up, and he was seeing patients. I would see the patients in the day, and then we'd drive over to the hospital at night for him to check them and feed me back, whether I was on the right track or not, because we were in class. What happened is we had a class going on when he collapsed in the hotel bathroom, so we had to take him to the hospital. So he said, "You've got to finish class." So I got thrown in the deep end, because up until then I was mainly his assistant. But so I said, "We've got to cancel class," and he said, "No, you've got to do class." I said, "But you just told me you want me to stay here with you." He said, "Yes." I said, "Honey, what you're asking for is for me to be in 2 places at once." And he said, "You're smart. You're going to figure it out."
So that was your introduction to teaching?
Not. It was my introduction to teaching solo. Yes, because I'd always been his assistant. Then at one stage we became more partners, but he was always my teacher. I always deferred to him. And then, yes, that was my introduction to solo. Yeah, because I had to. It was that or nothing.
And it's not like you were ill prepared. I suspect you had been doing this for a while, yes?
I recently reckoned how many patients I saw with him, and I stopped counting at 8,000. So I did have a lot of exposure. And the interesting thing is that I didn't ask him that many questions. There was questions that people ask, and I never asked him that because I was really busy paying attention to what he was doing. I was fascinated with what he was doing, and there was very little dialogue. It's really weird because we lived together and were together professionally all the time. But seeing patients in consultation, we were on the run. We were busy. And there wasn't much time for me to stop and say, why have you done that? I had to figure a lot out. But it's helped me become if I'm any good as a teacher, it's helped me because I've had to figure it out instead of being told a lot of things. To become a good gardener, you can read all the books in the world, but at some point you have to get your hands dirty and you've got to get a feel for it. And certain things just you learn through experience. And if you're lucky enough to be with a master gardener that's had experience, then you learn through working together. That's so much better than reading a book about it.
Yes. Well, reading a book about it or watching some kind of social media about it I probably shouldn't diss on the social media because, look, I don't use it that much myself, but I understand it's a communication channel for people that are younger than you and me. It's a way of communication of some sorts, but I don't understand it very well. So let me ask you, because, look, I'm more in the sense that you are, that we learn from our experience, we learn from our surroundings. Ideally, we have some master gardeners in our life somewhere that we get to, follow around or, maybe do some work with. How would you suggest for people that are coming along in the acupuncture world to do this kind of learning? Because, Judy, I suspect if you're going to be doing your learning from a master gardener, it's not a course of study. It's not a product that you buy. It's something that you engage.
Well, yes. So I'm very lucky because I'm not just lucky, I'm also particular in who I choose to work with. It works both ways. Students tend to think they can choose their teachers, but it does work both ways. You get to pick who you'd like to work with. So I surround myself with people who are like what JR said when he was in his last decade of life. He said, I want to work with people who've got the message and who want to evolve. So the old-fashioned ancient way was apprenticeship. This even goes back before this. Sacred texts and classic texts were there to record what was already happening. But what was already happening was before written records, wasn't it?
I don't know because, look, I'm not a historian. I'm not a sinologist.
Well, there was human beings around practicing it, and like the Yellow Emperor and whoever was dialoguing with the Yellow Emperor, which was an early text, apparently, that had to have already been transmitted. That wisdom and those teachings had to have already been transmitted for them to have even been having this conversation. So the book was written. They didn't learn from the book. The book was but we flipped it around. Now the book is supposed to be the instrument to teach. Am I making sense? I'm trying to explain that.
No, I think it's a chicken and egg thing a little bit, right? Because can you learn from books? Yes, you can learn from books.
But books are there to point to something. To point to something.
Yes.
Sorry, I didn't mean to interrupt.
They point you something. They give you an idea. They set you off in a direction. And then you have to go figure out what that actually means in any given context.
Absolutely. Yes. And that's why I really like working with people. The people, like tonight, an hour after we finish, or an hour and a half, we're having what's called a mentoring meeting. And these people have been teaching, some of them, for 10 years. and we work together, and we do something called replays, because we had a class last week with a group of Chinese students. And sometimes it did go well. It went very well last week, but I'm never satisfied. I'm always saying to them, what could we have done better, even better? So we'll work tonight, and we'll help each other, and we'll have a lot of laughter and a lot of fun. But we also help each other, and we do this thing called replay. JR and I did a lot of replays. I don't know if you're in, well, I don't need to know, but JR and I were both Virgos, and we can sometimes get a little picky, and we could be happy.
That I've heard that about Virgos.
Well, I'm here to back it up. So we could get into some conversations, and what could happen is you could end up, it was just silly. So one of us would say, let's just replay it. Like, you get into this, well, you said this, well, I said that, no, you meant this, no, I meant that. And we just would say, let's replay it. And we replay it, and it's over.
My goodness.
Now let's go. It's over. No more analysis, no more discussion, no more back and forth, no more whatever. It's over. And you've got now a new background because you've just replayed it. So we do that a lot with because like tonight, one of us will say, well, did you say anything the other day that you regret? See, we're back to regrets. I wish I hadn't said that, or that didn't come across quite clearly enough. So we'll replay it. And what we find is that once you've got it in your body, because when you speak it out loud, there's a memory created. You surprise yourself the next time you encounter a situation, and you find that you've got a spontaneous response that's much wiser as a result of this polished understanding. Let's call it polishing.
Ooh, I like that. Polished understanding. So let me make sure I got this. This sounds great. I'm good.
Or a deeper understanding.
I could use this at my dinner table, right? Right.
I don't know who's at your dinner table. Who's at your dinner table?
Well, my wife, my daughter.
Okay, yeah.
Right. Sometimes there's misunderstandings. Oh, I wish I said that. What did that person mean? What should I do? I did this. I regret that. It's just, stuff, right? It's at every dinner table.
Yep, exactly.
So what I think I hear you understanding, I want to try to tune this in because I want to use it. You just go back over the situation. You do that more wise, polished version.
Yeah, and you're done.
And it's not that you're done. Well, maybe you're done, but before you're done
with the back and forth.
You're done with back and forth, and there's a feeling that you have in you of, yes, that's right. And in a sense, the thing you wish that you could say, because it's in the replay, you've just said it. And so now it's kind of finished, and you have that sense. So as we were talking earlier about, this again, the next time this again, you've got that polished version.
But for myself, what I experience is that the regret, it melts away. Because you've now got this new feeling of rapport with the person, and it's like you've transcended the pettiness of it. That's what I experienced with JR, because most of the stuff we got into is petty, and you just transcend it, and you end up with this feeling of, because regret can be quite a deep negative feeling.
Mm-hmm.
And it lingers. It's hard to talk yourself out. I find it can be quite a black cloud. But this thing, and JR and I always used to, we had a pact that we would never, ever go to bed without feeling really at ease and happy together. You don't go to bed with an argument. We weren't good at that.
So it's not just a cognitive shift that happens in a replay. There's an emotional.
Yes. And physical. Yes. Physical. Because when I feel regret, I feel tight, or I don't know what I'm not sure I want to talk myself into the feeling. But yes, I think they all have associated physical sensations. So yes, but it also is elevating. It elevates your understanding of what's useful, and it makes us better teachers. That's for sure. The people I work with are just outstanding. They really are. And I'm very focused on wanting to leave leave them the way JR left me, I hope, feeling well grounded with a clear purpose and a clear focus of what we need to do. I've been accused of ownership. That's not what I feel. I don't feel like I own anything. What I feel committed to is clarity. And that's what I meant by diversity.
Mm.
Clarity is different. Clarity is you're playing a piano. You're not sitting at a piano, mastering a piano, wondering if it's a violin. You know what instrument you're working with, and you're clear about it. And it doesn't mean if you're working with the piano that there's something wrong with the violin. That's what diversity means. We get to choose what resonates and hopefully master it the best we can, which is, of course, is not a destination. It's a process.
Yeah, I'd like to delve into that a little bit. Mastery. Because it seems in our profession, in our trade, as I like to call it, there's almost a worship, a kind of fetishization of the people that are considered masters. And I'm not talking against mastery. I think mastery is really important. But it's maybe you can help me a little bit with this, because it's like when you're trying too hard, it's hard to get something. And if you're aiming at mastery,
I don't think you aim.
Maybe I should ask it this way. Let me ask it this way. If you're aiming at mastery, Judy, what else could I be aiming at if I don't want to think about mastery? What else could I be aiming at?
Okay, this is good. I don't think mastery is something you aim at. Mastery is a result of you having a deeply held, focused bond with something. Like my bond is with the natural order. So I don't have an aim to master something, but what I feel is that as I've evolved because I'm so focused and clear, I'm clear. I feel like in one small way, I've evolved in a pretty relatively high level to where I was before, not relative to other people, relative to myself.
Yeah, you made progress.
It's like becoming what do you call it? An accomplished pianist. Let's use a musician as an example. I don't think you would ever become a master pianist if you only try to become one. I think you become a master pianist because you're in love with playing the piano. And there's a difference. I'm in love with this work. I'm in love, not with the work. I'm in love with this way of life. So that has taken me along a path. There's a Rumi saying. Do you like Rumi?
I love Rumi.
Somebody sent me something recently. Oh, God, I don't know if I can find it. It was so beautiful. You know what? I don't know if I'm going to be able to find it. Wait a minute. Give me 1 second.
I'll give you a second. Take as much time as you need.
Here it is. Here it is. Here it is. No, here's the beautiful quote. Let yourself be silently drawn by the greater pull of what you really love.
Read that again, one more time. Read that one more time.
Okay, let yourself be silently drawn by the greater pull of what you really love. So JR loved the natural order. He just and he loved God. Our first dinner date, he said, you do realize that if we have a relationship, there's 3 of us, you, me, and God. We join hands and we become one. He was so in love with God and with the natural order that was our bond. And when he asked me to succeed him, it wasn't to become master at something. It was to provide a beacon of light like he did. That's clarity. That's clarity. And again, that's why I love diversity, because there's no competition. There's just clarity. Clarity. And if everybody had their clarity and their own beacon of light, we wouldn't have to downgrade anybody else. We wouldn't have to have arguments about many of these things that seem so controversial. I heard recently someone said in a lineage, JR did designate me to succeed him because he knew I was clear about what he had been given. I was just clear. I'm not better than anybody else. I'm just clear. And he groomed me. And he said, I know you have the courage to stand your ground. And one of the things that is imperative, not imperative, integrated in this medicine is it's far more than technology. It's about character. That's what I love about this medicine also. The ancient wisdom was not so much about how you do technology. It was about who you are as a practitioner, your character, whether you're humble, whether you're curious, whether you're willing to respect your teachers and respect the natural order. Respect is a big quality, especially it's a rare quality these days, but respect, yes, and clarity, yeah. So that's what JR entrusted me to convey, and that's what I hope I try my best to convey. So I heard somebody recently say, "Oh, well, the student picks the master." Well, that's just silly. It's not. That's not a democratic process. And I wouldn't say that to my senior gardener. I have respect for people who have acquired wisdom. I don't tell my handyman how to do things. He's been here 17 years. I call him my guru at times because he is so down to earth and wise. I say, John, blah, blah, blah. And I tell him about all these things going on Facebook, and he'll come out with 3 words. And I say, thank you. He just distills it into common sense. But I wouldn't disrespect him. I wouldn't tell him that I respect his acquired knowledge. And I have a gardener who helps me. He's 74 and he's been gardening his whole life. I show him, I don't show him, I feel respect. You get a lot more when you feel respect. I should say feel respect. There's a lot more engagement with that relationship.
Wow. Okay. I just want to pause on this for just a moment. The difference between showing respect, which is performative, and feeling respect, which is connective.
Yeah, and yes. Thank you.
Thank you. It's such a subtle distinction. But in some ways, I think it comes back to something else that we've been talking about, something else that you've shared here, which is clarity and the power of clarity. It's like, how do I go? What do I do? You talked earlier about you didn't know what you wanted to do in life. You traveled all over the place. Sounds like you had a great young adulthood. Very, very interesting. But you weren't at all clear about what you wanted.
But I was clear about, what I was so clear about is what was truthful, what was truthful to myself. I was clear about that.
Okay.
I was clear that I was not up for living a life of working until you retire. I mean, all of that made no sense to me. I didn't fit in at high school. There was I grew up in Coral Gables, which is a very privileged area, and the high school I went to was very cliquey and materialistic. Being true to myself was that was not those values were clearly not ones that I worshipped. So I was clear, but what I wasn't clear about was how that can manifest. And that's what
I get
where
that.
I wasn't.
I get that. I know for myself, I spent a lot of time in my younger years. Like, I'm not sure what I want, but I'm pretty clear on what I don't want.
And you're pretty clear that when you encounter what resonates for you, you know it.
Knocking around until I bump into it. Yeah.
Yes.
Although oddly enough, when it came.
So that's what JR was so authentic and so coming from such a deeply meaningful. JR did not have, he stopped at his formal education when he didn't stop because of the system here. They stopped educating him when he was 14, even though he had earned a scholarship to this very prestigious school. His parents could not afford the books. So you took these tests, and if you could not go and you stopped being educated at 14 unless you could afford to go to these fancy schools. So at 14, he was done. And he self-educated himself beyond that. but his character was so strong. And the way he carried himself through life was as his character values were what I knew, I was clear about. I didn't care what was on the wall, paper-wise, or how to spell his teachers' names or who they were. People say, "Well, what about his teachers?" I go, I never really questioned them that much about it. They think I'm weird. They think it's bizarre that I was with him 30 years and I just never found that interesting. What I found interesting is that he could diagnose people through color, sound, odor, and emotion, and he could do incredible things with treatment. That fascinated me.
In clinic, there's no such thing as a small detail. The needle you reach for, the formula you prescribe, the moment you choose to listen just a little bit longer. Your patients place their trust in you, and you deserve to place the same trust in the tools that you use. At Blue Poppy, they hold their products to the same standard that you hold your care. Herbal formulas crafted for efficiency, needles that perform the way you expect them to, clinic essentials that arrive on time. Because when your tools are dependable, your focus stays where it belongs, on your patients. No guesswork, no compromises, just steady support behind the scenes. Blue Poppy, the choice of practitioners since 1982. That's what got your attention. Do you have any idea, like if he could be here and I could ask him the question that I asked you a little while back, like what was going on in your life? What was around you when acupuncture first came into your awareness? Do you know how he first cottoned onto or noticed or was affected by, or like what drew his attention? Do you have any idea?
First of all, he was, as a young man, he was definitely knew that he loved people and wanted to help people. He joined this, it's called the St. John's Ambulance team. It's helping ambulance crews when he was 16. So he was already helping in the medical field, even though he wasn't educated. But he was, then during World War II, when it first broke out, Coventry, where he lived, was blitzed because of the ammunition factories there. So the Germans bombed Coventry heavily. And he worked with the ambulance teams to recover bodies and to help people in the streets. From there, he joined the Army. And in the Army, he became an education officer. And he was exemplary. His commanding officer wrote his discharge paper talking about what a wonderful person he was. And so J.R. had a burning, burning desire to help people. So he self-educated in osteopathy, naturopathy, and he was looking like we were. Like I went to California. And then somehow he encountered, I know he went to Europe. I don't really know what first captivated, but he fell in love with acupuncture, but he mostly fell in love with five element. That became his real love. Not because it's better or worse, it's for the same compelling reason that a musician will fall in love with a cello and not a trumpet. We just something happens. The magic of love draws us.
I like that, the magic of love. Yeah, there's so many different aspects to Chinese medicine.
Yeah, I know.
And, the five elements is one, the six qi. You could just go deep into yin yang by itself and, be endlessly fascinated and, work with people for a whole life. There's so many different aspects. And like you said earlier, the stuff that got written down in the Huangdi Neijing, it's like proof positive, really, that there had been some kind of ongoing understanding and use of these methods enough so that they could be transcribed. So it's
That's what I was trying to say. Yes. I mean, the Bible didn't invent God, if I may use Western religion. The Bible is meant to be a record of people's understandings and insights and experience of something transcendent. But the Bible didn't actually invent, and some, I believe that God probably existed before the Bible was even written. I'm saying that's my best attempt at sarcasm.
I notice your tongue firmly in your cheek there.
Correct. Thank you. Yes.
So if you could share something with a new practitioner, you'd say something along the lines of find the thing about it that you love?
Did you know Leon Hammer by any chance?
I know of him. I never had a chance to meet him.
I met him only through a symposium we both did, and he ended up contacting me afterwards and asked if we could FaceTime and be friends. And we had no conversation about our work. There was no need to, but we signed off each conversation with, do what you love and love what you do. Because we discovered that that's what our inner truth was. Do what you love and love what you do. And the rest is nobody else's really business to judge. That's why I said diversity. Diversity. What would nature be without diversity? And we don't have to pick one garden bird that's the only bird that we want to look at. The beauty of the birds that I feed all of Warwickshire birds here, I have like 10 bird feeders, is the variety. That's part of the beauty. So that's what I think is possible in our profession, that we each provide a gift in our own way that serves humanity. Wouldn't it be lovely if we could just respect each other?
I think it's a good place to start. And the reason I say it's a good place to start, speaking strictly for myself, it's so darn difficult. I'm so full of judgment and opinion.
Are you? Oh, Michael, you impress me being such an open-hearted. Really? Why do you say that? I have an opinion about your opinion. Sorry.
Yes, most people do have an opinion about someone's opinion. It's what gets us in trouble. No, I practice being open-minded. I practice being open-hearted. I practice being curious. And it's helpful. And my life is way, way better when I do. And I also know the thoughts that go on between my own two ears. And quite often, the first thought is judgmental. The first thought is, well, that's stupid. And then I pause for a moment and go, okay, so what's going on here?
That's lovely. That's great. It doesn't matter. In my humble opinion.
Well, actually, it does matter, because, I mean, we're all quirky, interesting characters, and I suspect part of the trick, if there is a trick to growing old in any kind of graceful way, is to have some appreciation for the quirky character that you are, without too much negativity and judgment. So here's one of the ways that I often will know at this point that something is worth exploring for myself. The reason I know it is because my first reaction is, well, that's just stupid. Whenever I feel a strong negative
charge, yes,
charge, if I call it stupid or I go, well, why would anyone want to do that? At this point, I know it's a way that something's going on. I don't have the capacity at the moment to quite understand it. My first response is defensive. I notice that defensive response these days more often than not, and no, pause, wait. There might be something here. Like, just pause, just give it a moment, take a look, and use it as a kind of fuel.
Can I have some of that juice? I need some of that juice, that patience juice.
Wait, say that again?
I said, I need some of your juice, called the patience juice, because you said you go on pause. I want to add, can I just add one more thing about Leon Hammer that you might find amusing?
Of course.
He loved cats. And one of the things we would share when we FaceTime is he would show me his cat, Rumi. So see, we've got a bunch of pieces that have all come together here. Because Leon was quite an academic, but he was very, very accepting of me being not that strongly academic. But anyway, he was a cat lover. So I thought, and I'm a cat lover and you're a cat lover.
Yeah, we're all cat lovers. And it's really wonderful to be able to become friendly with people that we're very different from.
Diversity.
Yeah, I think so too.
I couldn't agree more. Yeah. Or people that were alike with that we supposedly have common interests, we don't feel that resonance or that pull. So I don't know. I don't know what the differentiate. Well, I do know what the differentiation is. I do know.
And what is it?
Anyway, what kind of work do you do? May I ask you what kind of medicine you practice?
Practice acupuncture.
I don't know anything about you.
I practice acupuncture.
I don't know that. I didn't know that you practiced herbalism or acupuncture.
Yeah, okay. So I practice acupuncture. I practice Chinese herbal medicine.
Right.
That's it.
Where do you live in Portland? Where do you live?
No, I live in St. Louis. I'm down the street from where you went to college.
Oh, you live in I didn't even catch that. You live in St. Louis?
Yes, I live in St. Louis, Missouri.
Wow. So you know Washington University.
I know. Yeah, my wife works there.
Well, how do you like that?
I know it's a funny world, isn't it?
I'm sorry, I missed that.
Yeah, no, I practice acupuncture. I'm sorry?
Yeah, I said I missed that. I didn't understand that when you said down the road. I don't know I didn't catch what you meant. Oh, that's amazing.
Yeah.
Did you grow up there?
Yeah, no, I've been practicing acupuncture did I grow up here? Yeah. So here's the funny thing, Judy. I grew up in St. Louis. I lit out of here when I was 18 because, man, I can't wait to get out of here. I never planned to come back. But here's something I found out about the universe. If you tell it you're not going to do something, it has a sense of humor.
That's very good.
It has a sense of humor.
So you're back in St. Louis. Wow.
Yeah. Yeah, and it's a great place to practice. There's, it's a big enough town. There's a lot of people that are interested in acupuncture, and, years ago, it was a very strange thing, but, mostly these days everybody knows what it is, and, it's kind of a nice place to live, actually. Smaller town, cost of living is nice here.
I liked going to school there. There was beautiful countryside around. Johnson shut-ins.
Yes. Yes, you go down south, Johnson shut-ins and the black. Yeah.
I made it off those high cliffs.
Come visit. Wait, what was that?
I made it off those. Wasn't there a high place to dive into the water from way up high?
With the shut-ins?
Yes. They probably closed it down now. It was so dangerous. I can't believe we did it.
Of course. Yeah, they probably shut it down.
They shut down Johnson shut-in. Yeah. Anyway, we used to go there and dive from very high cliffs. And I'm sure it was not safe, but we did it anyway.
Of course it wasn't safe. But look, hitchhiking to California wasn't safe either. So let me ask you this. Safety, adventure, moving beyond the boundaries of what's comfortable. A moment ago, I was talking about how when some kind of new idea comes that maybe I should pay attention to, my first response is no, or that's stupid, right? I have a defensive posture in the beginning. And there's a place for some defensiveness. And, look, about the 5 elements. There's a place for fear. There's a place for love. There's a place for thinking. There's a place for anger. Look, there's a place for all of it. The capacity to move fluently, between those states, I think is a good indication of health and well-being.
You got it.
When we were younger, I think there was less attention to safety. Everyone's like, oh, be safe. I hear this a lot from people these days, ever since COVID, right? When they say goodbye, they don't say goodbye, they say, be safe. At least, here in the States, you'll often hear that. Stay safe. And I'm thinking, why would I want to do that?
Exactly. I get it. Exactly. It's not the highest priority for sure. It is a priority, but it's not the highest priority.
What would be a higher priority?
Love what you do and do what you love. Love each other.
Okay.
I'm in love with love.
So we're back to that.
Yes.
Do what you love and love what you do.
Mostly that does mean loving each other. because the greatest love really is our capacity to help each other.
Yeah, and there's so many ways to do that. I mean, we're lucky. Acupuncture is a really cool way to interact with people because, you can go beyond the thinking and emotions in a way. You don't have to go at it directly like you would with words. You can use your sensing and your being and your presence and your needles and who knows whatever else.
That's beautiful. Definitely. So you and I practice differently, but there's not a problem with that I'm experiencing yet.
I find one of the cool things about practicing acupuncture is that I get to meet lots of different kinds of people, and we, by and large, practice in different ways. I almost always come away with learning something a little bit new about how to think about acupuncture or how to use it, or maybe more importantly, just how to be with the people that I'm with.
You would have liked JR, I think. I think you would have liked him from what little I'm reading about you, because you've got a big heart. And I think you would have noticed that he had a big heart.
Well, perhaps I'm glad that we have this moment here for two St. Louisans to some degree to have a bit of a conversation.
My brother went to medical school there. So yeah, our roots are deep in St. Louis.
Yeah. Well, I think this is probably a good place to wind it up for today.
Well, thank you very much for having me as your guest. I've really enjoyed speaking with you. Thank you.
Well, I've enjoyed this as well, and thank you for your thoughts about mastery and accomplishment and clarity and how it's so important to love what we do. That's where the guide is.
It's a gift. It's a gift if we love what we do. Definitely is my experience. Yes.
Definitely. All right, Judy Worsley. Thanks for your time today. This has been delightful.
Thank you. Cuddle your cats for me, please.
I will do that.
I don't think that'll be much effort for you.
No, it won't.
Okay. Thank you so much.
I always enjoy a good adventure story full of twists of fate and guidance that almost seems like an offhand remark. Certainly, Judy's path of finding and learning acupuncture is a far cry from today where you can log on to the internet and search for a school. I appreciated her thoughts about the natural world being the primary curriculum. Indeed, as microcosms of a larger world, being able to find and use the proper resonances can be helpful in understanding and treating our patients. Her thoughts on mastery, that it's not a goal, but rather a byproduct of relationship, that rings true for me. So often, mastery is talked about as a noun, but really, it's a verb. And finally, that living at the intersection of love and duty, that you can find something to give yourself to that calls to your spirit and your heart, and that this is turned toward being helpful in the world. It does seem like a potent intersection that allows for service and at the same time being able to further your inquisitiveness and curiosity about something that you're interested in. Love what you do and do what you love. It seems like pretty good advice.